In the dead of night, an unexpected gift arrives at my doorstep. Picture this, a quiet evening, the world asleep, and the moon casting long, eerie shadows. Then, a soft thud disrupts the tranquil silence, followed by an unanticipated presence on my doorstep. A beautifully wrapped box, adorned with an intricate bow, sat there, glistening under the pale moonlight. A gift, it seemed, left anonymously in the stillness of the night. The box was not heavy, but it bore a strange aura, a sense of mystery that made my hands tremble slightly as I unwrapped it. My curiosity piqued. I pulled at the ribbon, and the paper crinkled under my touch, revealing an old, antique doll. It was dressed in faded clothes, its porcelain skin cracked with age, and its eyes, oh, those eyes, they seemed almost alive. There was no note, no card, no hint whatsoever as to who might have sent this peculiar present. The doll, though old and worn, was strangely captivating. Its glassy eyes held a certain allure that drew me in, and its delicate craftsmanship spoke of a time long past. At first glance, it seemed harmless, just a toy from a bygone era, perhaps forgotten by time. Yet, there was something about it that felt unsettling. Perhaps it was the way its eyes seemed to follow me around the room, or the slight chill that ran down my spine whenever I held it. As I turned the doll over in my hands, I couldn't help but wonder about its story. Who had owned it before? What hands had it passed through over the years, and why was it sent to me, of all people? The doll sat there, silent and unassuming, its painted smile never wavering. As I placed it on a shelf, it seemed to blend seamlessly into my home, its presence almost comforting in its familiarity. Yet, as I turned to leave the room, I felt a sense of unease that I couldn't quite shake off. I looked back at the doll, its eyes seeming to glint in the dim light. Perhaps it was just my imagination, the late hour playing tricks on my mind. Little did I know, this was no ordinary doll. The day after the doll arrived, strange things started happening. It was as if the atmosphere in the house had shifted, changed somehow. The air seemed denser, heavier, almost like there was an extra presence sharing our space. The first oddity was the objects. Small things at first, keys, remote controls, coffee mugs, began to move from their original places. I'd leave a room for a moment, only to return and find the items had relocated. Then, the cold spots started appearing. There were areas in the house that, despite the thermostat reading, felt as if they had been kissed by winter's frost. I'd walk into a room and be greeted by an unexpected chill, a sudden drop in temperature that made goosebumps prickle on my skin. And always the doll would be nearby, its glassy eyes seeming to watch, to observe. And the sounds, oh, the sounds. In the dead of night, when the world was silent and still, eerie noises would creep up the stairs and slip under the doors. It was a symphony of soft whispers, distant footsteps, and an occasional soft giggle that sent shivers down my spine. It was a sound that didn't belong in my home, a sound that echoed in the darkest corners of my fears. But the strangest part was the doll. It was always there, always watching. It was as if it was at the center of all these bizarre happenings. Its stitched smile and vacant stare seemed to hold a secret, a story that it was not yet ready to tell. As the days passed, the occurrences increased in frequency and intensity. It was then that I realized it wasn't my home that had changed. It was the doll. The doll, it seemed, had brought something with it into my home, and that something was beginning to make itself known in the most unsettling of ways. When the sun went down, the real horror began. The night brought with it a cloak of darkness, heavy and ominous, the perfect backdrop for the nightmares that would soon ensue. As sleep claimed me, I found myself trapped in a world of terror, a realm where logic and reality held no sway. Each dream was a twisted labyrinth, a grotesque caricature of my waking life, and at the center of it all was the doll. In every nightmare, the doll would take on a new form, each more horrifying than the last. One moment, it was a spectral figure looming in the shadows, its glassy eyes reflecting the moonlight in an eerie glow. The next, it was a monstrous creature, its porcelain skin stretched over a skeletal frame, its mouth agape in a silent scream. The dreams were relentless, night after night, each one a new chapter in this relentless saga of terror. The doll was always there, lurking in the periphery of my vision, its presence a constant reminder of the fear that had taken root in my heart. It was as though the doll was haunting me, not just in the physical world, but in the realm of dreams as well. Its malevolent spirit had somehow found a way to invade my subconscious, turning my dreams into a playground for its twisted games. The terror was so real, so palpable, that it followed me into the waking world. I would wake up in a cold sweat, the echoes of the nightmares still ringing in my ears. The line between sleep and wakefulness began to blur, and I found myself questioning my sanity. In the light of day, I could convince myself that it was all just a dream, that the doll was nothing more than a harmless toy. But as night fell, the fear would return, stronger than ever, and I would find myself once again at the mercy of my nightmares. Awake or asleep, there was no escaping the terror. Desperate for answers, I delved into the doll's past. My quest for understanding led me to dusty libraries, online forums, and even to the doorsteps of previous owners, or rather to their surviving relatives. A picture began to form, a chilling pattern that sent shivers down my spine. The doll, it seemed, had a dark history. It was not just an innocent plaything, but a harbinger of doom. Each of its previous owners had met with untimely ends, their lives cut short by strange accidents, inexplicable illnesses, or sudden tragedies. The doll was always there, its glassy eyes watching as life ebbed away. I traced the doll back to its creation, to a talented but troubled toy maker in the late 19th century. He had crafted the doll for his beloved daughter, only for her to pass away soon after. Heartbroken, he sealed his grief and his love into the doll, a curse that would outlive him. Since then, the doll had passed from hand to hand, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Each owner was drawn to its eerie beauty, oblivious to the danger that lurked within. They welcomed it into their homes, into their lives, only to find themselves trapped in its unending cycle of terror. The doll was not just an object, but a vessel, a conduit for a potent curse. It was a silent predator biding its time, waiting for its moment to strike. And now, it had chosen me. I was the doll's newest victim, caught up in its relentless march of horror. I was left with a chilling realization. The doll was not just a possession, but a possessor. It did not belong to me. I belonged to it. I was in its grip, ensnared by its curse, my fate intertwined with its own. The doll had chosen me, and there was no escape. I was the doll's newest victim, trapped in its unending cycle of terror. In a final bid for freedom, I decided to confront the doll. The air was thick with tension. Every breath I took felt like inhaling shards of ice. My heart pounded like a war drum in my chest, matching the deafening silence of the night. There it sat, that doll, with its unnerving smile and lifeless eyes, its presence a paradox of innocence and pure terror. I had one goal, one desperate hope, to break the curse that had turned my life into a living nightmare. I approached it, my hands trembling, my mind swirling with a whirlwind of fear and determination. It was a standoff, a face-off between me and this embodiment of evil. I tried everything, from ancient rituals to modern-day exorcisms, each attempt more desperate than the last. I attempted to burn it, but the flames danced around it, refusing to touch it. I tried to bury it, but the earth spat it back out. I even attempted to drown it in the river, but it floated back, its chilling smile wider than ever. The climax of my struggle was as intense as it was chilling. I could feel its power growing, feeding off my fear. But I was not ready to give in, not yet. I screamed at it, my voice echoing in the eerie silence. "You have no power over me." But the doll just sat there, its smile never faltering, its eyes never blinking. It was as if it was mocking me, laughing at my futile attempts. I felt a chill run down my spine, a feeling of dread washing over me. And then it hit me. The realization was like a punch to the gut, leaving me breathless. The doll was not the source of the curse. It was just a vessel, a conduit for something far more sinister. I had been fighting the wrong enemy. As I stared into the doll's lifeless eyes, I realized the terrifying truth. The horror was far from over.